a video on bacon and rice pilaf, kind of ish. So this is going to be part of the limited ingredients, limited budget videos that I do, where we kind of have all the same kind of ingredients, but just used in different ways. So kind of like the cheapest stuff that you can buy in the supermarket, and then kind of what you can actually do with those ingredients, and making them as interesting as possible. So it's kind of like a bit of a challenge to get as much flavour into things and utilise things in the best kind of way. Cooking bacon. I've already opened the packet and I'm poaching the bacon. So it's the cheapest way. It's like the cheapest meat in the supermarket, unless you want to go down the offal route, which I don't think many people want to kind of do offal. So it's about £1.79 for a kilo. I think £1.79. I think it was less than that in the past, but food prices have gone up in the last few months, to say the least. So it's the cheapest form of protein. It's good stuff. It is the ends of. So when the supermarkets slice their bacon, they can only slice so much of the bacon before the end bit gets a bit scraggy. So the cooking bacon tends to be the scraggy bits at the end of the bacon joints. So they just repackage it up and sell it as cooking bacon. It generally tends to be better quality bacon than the supermarket's really cheap bacon, because it's just the end bits that they can't sell any kind of other way. And if you go through the packets, you'll find that you'll see some are almost like gammon steaks. So like something like that size, that's almost a gammon steak. So there's 500 grams in there. I'm just cooking it in a little bit of ham stock that I had. What it is it's the stock from me rendering some lard down. So it's a little bit, it's got some good flavour to it anyway. We need to cook it because it's not, by the time the rice is cooked, the bacon wouldn't be cooked. So we'd either have to carry on cooking till the bacon was tender and overcook the rice, or we'd have to eat like tough bacon. So I'm going to poach it beforehand, and then that'll draw some of the moisture out, get it nice and tender, and then it'll also, what we'll be able to do is we'll take that fat on the outside of the bacon, like those fatty bits there, and we'll be able to use that fat to fry down the vegetables that we're going to use. I am using that stock that I've got, and I don't, so it'll be a little bit salty already with that stock, but otherwise I'd be using water to poach the bacon, and then I'd just up the amount of chicken stock cubes that I use. So probably that flavour of that stock in there is about 1 chicken stock cubes worth, plus the saltiness that comes out of the bacon. So we'll kind of see how many stock cubes that we're going to have to use. So the rest of it is going to be 500 grams worth of cooking bacon, about 800 millilitres worth of water, which is going to be the stock, which is going to be created by the bacon and the stick in stock cubes. We'll see how many we need. There's about 250-300 grams worth of onions. There's 200 grams worth of carrots, and I might put some peas in as well. These carrots are the wonky ones from the supermarket. They're fine, there's nothing wrong with them, they're just odd shapes, which those small ones are fine for chopping up and putting in something like this. Let's just put the lid on that and turn it down. So there's burping. 200 grams worth of that, and I think for the sake of ease, we'll work on the assumption like 200 grams worth of onions, 200 grams worth of carrots, and 200 grams worth of frozen peas. And there will be the wonky ones from the supermarket. Although these are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I did notice that 2 supermarkets didn't have any of the wonky peas in, so I don't know what's going on there. So that might be something that's stopping selling because the price of the food's going up and all that kind of stuff. The rice, there's going to be 400 grams worth of rice, and therefore double the amount of water. So it's 400 grams worth of rice, 800 millilitres worth of stock or water. This rice is fine. It doesn't cook particularly evenly. So that's the only problem with it. what you can do is you can soak it beforehand, which we might do. No, I won't, because the water that I'm going to be, if we soak it in water, we're going to lose some of the starch, and I want the starch for the dish. And it's also nutrition as well. If we kind of get rid of the starch out of the water, we kind of lose that. So other dishes I would recommend that you soak the rice beforehand. We're not going to do it with this dish because I don't want to lose any kind of goodness out of the rice and that starch that we're going to need. So, and then I'm going to put a little bit of turmeric in as well, which isn't part of the limited budget, limited ingredients challenge, but I just wanted to put some turmeric in, and that's kind of quite it. So that'll take about half an hour to poach, just to tenderize it, and then we can use that fat to fry off the vegetables, and then the rice. Ordinarily, I just put things in. It's a Saturday, so I normally go. I always try and go swimming unless I'm working on a Saturday. And I like to put things in the oven before I go swimming, and then they're ready for when I come home from swimming. This will only take about half an hour to 40 minutes to cook. So it's going to be a case of getting everything ready before I go swimming, and then what I'll do is I'll just quickly boil up the stock. We'll fry off the vegetables and the rice beforehand, and then it'll just be a simple case of adding the hot stock back to this, and then what we call it, and then kind of put it in the oven. Then it won't overcook while I'm swimming. So that's it, really. I think that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Yeah. And if I think of anything else I want to put in, we'll put something else in later. Right. I'm running out of time. I need to go swimming, so I haven't got time to fry things off. So as you'll see, it's a lot tenderer than it was. So it certainly needs cooking. There's the cooking bacon. Before you do anything with it, otherwise it's just too salty and too tough. But that's fine. So that can stay in there with the lid on until I come back from swimming, and then we'll drain it off, and we'll fry some things off, and we'll put it all together. So I have rendered down that fat from the bacon. That's gone nice and crispy. I'm going to leave that in, because I think that'll be nice. So vegetables in, give them a stir around to get them soft. The rice is going to be ready in about half an hour. So if we put the rice in now, the vegetables are raw, it's not going to be ready in time. They're not going to be ready in time. So get them soft. Get those crispy bits off the bottom of the pan. Actually, we'll put the lid on, and then the juice doesn't kind of escape. I was thinking, actually, the question will be, why don't you just fry the bacon off in the pan and give it some colour beforehand? And the answer to that is, it's just too salty. And I find that with most bacon that you buy, I find it a little bit too salty, mostly because of the way they make bacon. So turn that down, sweat those for 5 or 10 minutes, get them soft, and then we'll throw in the rice, we'll throw in the stock, we'll put the meat on top, and then I think we're going to cook it on top of the stove, I think. Yeah, I think I'm going to cook it on top of the stove because I've got something else in the oven. And it'll be a bit quicker on top of the stove, and generally on top of the stove you're looking at half the time that it takes in the oven. So if something takes 2 hours in the oven, it'll take about an hour on top of the stove. So I'm a bit behind schedule and I'm a bit hungry, so we'll cook it on top of the stove. Right, so vegetables are soft, so in with 400 grams of rice. Get that coated in the fat, or oil if you're using oil. I know some people are not into animal fats, but I think they're much nicer than oil. So that coated, and then how much turmeric? Turmeric's an optional extra. So what do we reckon? Heaped teaspoon? Heaped teaspoon? Maybe a bit more. We'll see. We'll move things around. Turn the temperature up because we need to. Let's put another half in. Put another. It's supposed to be really good for you, turmeric. But I don't know. A bit of curry powder would be nice, wouldn't it? That's that, and then the 800 millilitres of stock. I really should taste that, shouldn't I? Let's see how it tastes. That's salty enough, is that? That's salty enough. So, because that stock was full of flavour already, if you were just using water, I'd say use 1 stock cube. If you're doing the cooking the bacon beforehand, poaching it beforehand, you're going to get saltiness and flavour out of that. So I reckon 1 stock cube if you're doing that. If you're doing what I'm doing, which is another bit of flavour, a bit of stock that you've got lying around, then cut back on the amount of stock cubes that you use. But if you're just using water, or if you're making this with chicken instead, then I reckon with these stock cubes, I always reckon that you double. So if the manufacturer says one of these per every 500 millilitres of water, I reckon you should use 2, because I think we're using them as a flavour type of thing, and I don't think there's that much flavour if you just use 1. So this up to the boil, and then we're going to put in 200 grams of peas as well. So let's just measure those, because I'm always prepared, aren't I? So the peas, frozen peas, don't take long to cook, but I want them cooked. I want them in the dish. I don't want them on top. So bring this up to the boil, and then we'll put in the. No, bring this up to the boil, and then we'll put the peas in, and then we'll put the meat on top, or nestled on top, and then we'll slowly cook it. So, do you need to see that? Yeah, you do, don't you? You do. Hang on. So, up to the boil, and then we're back. So, up to the boil, in with the 200 grams of the peas. Might need some more liquid, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And then ham, short bacon, there. Miss out those bits of goodness, and then lid on. Let's have a taste first. No, doesn't need any more stock cubes. So lid on, and then on the smallest gas jet we've got for 20 minutes, half an hour. Right, so certainly needs more water, because that's in danger of drying out too much. So how much more are we going to put in? I've boiled some water. Where's the kettle? Oh, it's there. So let's weigh. Let's put in another 300 millilitres. Will that soak down to the bottom? Yes, it looks like it will. So that in there. If it sticks on the bottom, I'm not too bothered. With things like paella, or paella, however you want to pronounce it, it's nice if it fries on the bottom and goes a little bit crispy. But anyway, so that back on the back, and we'll carry on cooking. So it was almost ready, so I decided what I'd do is I'd just turn the heat off and let it cook in its own residual temperature. So it should be ready. Peas haven't lost too much colour, so that's alright, isn't it? Lovely. So I'm gonna go. No, I'm gonna eat it in a bowl because it's Saturday night and I'm gonna watch a film. So I think it's 4 good portions in there. You know, it's limited ingredients, limited budget. So 125 grams worth of meat a portion. That in full. Yeah, that's all right. With what was it? 100 grams worth of rice. I'll do a costing. I can't imagine it's be that expensive. Oh, lovely. Oh my god. So, see, I'm eating with a mouthful again. The bacon works a treat. So that's another one to add to the repertoire of limited ingredients, limited budget.